I guess that's just part of Bruce Stanton's rebuttal, which was citing the Muskoka initiative as something positive and progressive that the conservatives have embraced. That sort of like, how can you? Why would you have an Occupy movement when your government is doing stuff like the Muskoka initiative? Was basically his point.
Yeah.
But there's a dark side to the Muskoka initiative too. Posturing as someone who cares about maternal health, okay,
Yeah.
when you're denying funding to organizations that that are operating in countries that have legal access to abortion. For example, if a woman is raped and contracts AIDS from the rape and becomes pregnant from the rape, apparently an abortion is not what the conservatives recommend for that woman's health.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So the Muskoka initiative is a ridiculous act of hypocrisy on our government's part.
Yeah, it
And
also is a distraction away from what's actually causing such horrific conditions for billions of people in the world, which is unfettered free trade.
right, exactly. Our corporations operating in their countries, pillaging their resources,
Yeah, and
is
so the
certainly part of the
actual
problem.
conditions, these negative conditions, are often burdened most by women and children in the first place because of gender imbalances or power imbalances in these societies.
Hmm. Yeah, but anyway, it was very interesting to see such a flaccid attempt on the part of a conservative MP to answer your article. And this is especially interesting in the context of a conservative government that has a gag order on most of its MPs. So
Yeah.
for them to for Bruce Stanton to get clearance to address your argument.
Well, one wonders if he did get clearance. I mean, he might, Aurelia's not a big place, and Bruce Stanton's a backbencher. Writing his article, he may have just done that on his own initiative without having uh, to get any clearance. It
Yeah,
is something. Go
he's
ahead.
also got a lot of support in that
Yeah,
writing as well. Yeah.
he
Hmm.
does.
The government and the media has a long history of trying to discredit protesters, social movements, people that are involved in any form of activism.
Hmm.
Like, it's not
It's true.
surprising. That's what they like to do.
Yeah.
They discredit that, and then people don't take it as seriously,
Yeah.
right?
If there's one
That was
political.
kind of that was kind of the irony of the article when I read it. The first thing that I thought was, I got to go back and read your first article because I thought I had read a different article altogether. And I went back and I read your first article that he had responded to, and I was like, no, okay, I read the same article, and his worldview is so entirely different from ours that his approach to the whole subject just comes off completely disjointed. And in the irony of the situation is that in his response to your saying that people are people in the media and people in government are kind of just slushing off the Canadian Occupy movement, he kind of did that and said he wasn't. He's like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't think we're doing that. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to say there's nothing to worry about because we're already doing stuff about it. And it was just kind of
Yeah.
it didn't really the message didn't really come out. I think the way that he wanted it to. It just didn't seem to have any power to it. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you got the attention of Bruce Stanton though.
You know,
Yeah.
and this is another thing, Jacob. One of the reasons that we really wanted to talk to you is that I really like your article, and just the mere fact that you're able to um, discuss in the context of your article how money is created in our economic system, and discuss fractional reserve banking. Very important, very very important. If one thing comes out of this movement, I would hope that a greater understanding on the part of people, and especially young people, a better understanding of how our economy operates and how our
Yeah.
money supply is regulated. And as you point out correctly in your article, our money supply is expanded by the act of private banks creating debt. So money is created as debt. Okay, and our government has essentially lost control of the creation of our own currency. They've ceded it to the private chartered banks. It's an extremely important fundamental of economic system that people need to understand in order for anything good to happen as a result of this movement. And I'm incredibly encouraged that this is part of the discussion, and you're part of introducing it to the discussion with your article.
Yeah, for sure. Financial illiteracy is partly what got us into this mess in the first place.
Right. And now we were talking earlier with Dave and Gavin, and Dave's position in particular was that the impetus behind this movement is the disparity between the incomes of the rich and the poor. But hand in hand with that is, the banking crisis in the States. There's always been a disparity between rich and poor, but until the government started shoveling taxpayers' dollars straight to the wealthy, like taking it out of the coffers of the general population and then putting it in the bank accounts of the rich people, the direct transfer of wealth and looting of the people's treasury. That is what really got this thing started, and then it rallies around the difference between the rich and the poor. The 99% versus the 1%. But I mean, like the real jumping off point was the raiding of the treasury, which is an inevitable eventuality in a system that uses fractional reserve banking. And although the Americans are ahead of us in terms of their ongoing financial collapse, we can't be that far behind because of the enormous debt that our government pays interest on, and the inflationary manner in which our monetary supply is increased.
And also our interdependency with the American economy and with the global economy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
If it's gonna affect another country after if the crisis in the United States banking system is going to affect another country other than the United States, the next country it will affect will be Canada. I mean, we're neighbors, our trade relations are so integrated. Even if Canada has, say, better banking regulations than the Americans, it doesn't mean that we don't have concerns with our own system, and it doesn't mean that there aren't improvements that can be made within Canada's banking system. Technically, I believe the Minister of Finance does have the ability to interject his opinion into the upper echelons of banking in Canada, but I don't believe that's ever been done. I don't believe that the finance minister has ever exercised that right.
The big issue comes down to people listening to the Canadian people.
Meaning what, Dawna?
What?
Meaning what?
The big deal is the government not listening to the people.
Right, exactly.
Or representing the interests of the people.
I agree with you on that 100%.
That's the hugest issue. It's even... I know that people think the government may be powerless, but I do think they have more influence than they exert.
Yeah, and the way I see that is, if there is anything that can come of this movement, the 99% has to work within our existing system to make the government responsive to the will of the people. That has to be an outcome, otherwise this is going nowhere, as far as I'm concerned.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. So, and hopefully we here at Election Fallout and Opposition Radio, with our guests, and I hope you both come back to join us to participate in that discussion. Hopefully we can lead it, or participate in the discussion of how the movement can interface politically to achieve its ends.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And other than that, Mike, do you have anything to add?
No. I just want to keep having these discussions, and there's going to be so much more to talk about with the Occupy movement in general and Canadian politics. So we'll keep moving forward, and we'll find things to talk about. They'll come to us, I'm sure.
And hopefully, Dawna, we're going to be down at Occupy North Bay this coming weekend with a recorder, and we can
and early, Tony.
Well, hopefully not too early. I cannot do a time that is not civilized. How early are you talking about?
I'll be there early. I'll wait for you.
Okay, cool. And so we'll get down there with a recorder.
I would encourage everybody to come out that is listening locally, and I would love to have some support from some of the older generations as well.
Exactly.
There's my call for arms.
And so we're going to get down there as Occupy North Bay begins and capture some of the attitudes and ideas of people that are there.
And I think Jacob would also like to mention he's got an event coming up in Aurelia. Did you want to talk about that just really quickly, Jacob?
Sure, I'm actually on a Sunday, November 13th, from noon to 1 at the St. Paul's United Church in Aurelia. I'll be giving an hour-long discussion, talk about my experiences here at Occupy Toronto and how we can start organizing for an Occupy Aurelia.
Very cool.
Excellent.
Well, let's bring this to a close, and I'd like to say once more thank you to Dawna Ahola and Jacob Kearey-Moreland, our guests, and before that, Dave Fluri and Gavin Stairs. I hope you all come back, and we're gonna continue this conversation and hopefully have some sort of effect on the Occupy movement. And here we go, out to Sold to the Nice Rich Man by the Welcome Wagon.
Rich man came to our town and wandered around. Rich man came to change our minds and change our plans. Take our things, take our nights. Tonight's we fight. Rich man bought our wandering world, our wonderful world, our wandering world. Rich man bought our wandering world, wonderful world, our wandering world. Get your guns, let's shoot him down, let's axe his plans. But we missed the mark, there goes the ark, here comes the dark. Rich man spoke, thunder clapped like a waterfall, as those waters fall on those know-it-alls and their mighty causes. Rich man bought our wandering world, our wonderful world, our wandering world. Rich man bought our wandering world, our wonderful world, our wandering world. Rich man came to pay the price, he paid it all. He paid the now, he paid the was, he paid it in full. He paid it for fools who wandered and drooled and full of lies. He's twice as nice.